Hello Simmers, welcome back to SatchOnSims, and today we are ranking the biggest controversies of The Sims 4. Before we start, I am feeling very sick today, so that is why I'm not being a loud, crazy, bubbly YouTuber, so this is going to be a very chilled video. So obviously, as we are talking about controversies, there are going to be very many different varying opinions. Some people are going to agree, other people are going to disagree. Of course, if you want to voice your opinion, do so in the comment section below, because I love to hear your opinions, but let's be kind to each other. So I made this tier list myself. I've basically just gone over like the biggest controversies. I know there are so many different ones, but fundamentally I've got the biggest ones starting from when the game first released. I'm not going to read through all of them now. We're just going to go over them one by one, going from mildly unpopular, fail, huge fail, controversial, and Sims 4 is cancelled. First up, we have got the swimming pool issue. Now, for those of you who do not know, when the Sims 4 was first released, there was actually no swimming pools. In fact, the game was missing so many different features, but the fact that swimming pools were missing was like a really big one, because obviously, you know, it is a big feature. I know a lot of people were very mad when they didn't release a base game with pools, and it was a bit controversial. But for me personally, I never really play with pools. Like, as a builder, like if you're doing a modern build, maybe having a pool in your back garden looks nice, but at the end of the day, when do you ever actually put your Sims in a swimming pool? I think swimming is one of the most boring things to do in The Sims 4. I'm not really that keen on swimming, so I'm just going to make this mildly unpopular. I'm sure a lot of people will disagree with me though. Oh, hang on, my phone's going off. Hang on. It might be important. It's not. It's just my mate texting me about having a Chinese. Guys, I'm sorry. I'm breaking the flow of the video, but I'm going to have a Chinese later, and I'm really excited for my Chinese. Anyway, controversy number 2. I am sorry. If you're new here, I do go off on tangents. That is just me, and I am going to try and stop, but it is a part of my personality, so you may have to deal with it. Next up, we've got Toddlers. Now, this was another thing that was missing in the base game. And I guess to leave out swimming pools is all right. It is excusable, but to leave out a literal stage of life is a little bit severe. I don't think I can forgive the Sims team for this one. I am going to put this one as Sims 4 is cancelled, because this was one of the main reasons why people thought, oh my god, what is the point of even buying this game when you don't even have a life stage? And as a result of not having Toddlers in, a lot of the early game content was solely based around young adult gameplay, which is why gameplay for children is so lackluster these days, because it wasn't built on a platform of having all of the life stages available. And I do think it had a massive negative impact on the general favorability of the game. Next up, we've got the 20th anniversary hot tub, and oh boy. For those who don't know, it was the 20th anniversary of The Sims. Was it in 2020? I think it was. Anyway, 20th anniversary is a pretty big one. You think that they do a lot with the 20th anniversary, and they gave us a hot tub. It was the ugliest hot tub in the world. It literally just had like a roof on it. What hot tub in the world has a roof on it? I've never seen a hot tub with a roof on it before in my life. Maybe you have, but I for one have not. Anyway, it was the ugliest hot tub. In addition, it took away one of the key features, which was in the back garden. Guys, forget the pack names. I can't remember them to save my life. There's too many. Is it back garden stuff? Patio garden stuff. Guys, sorry, there are too many. Anyway, one of those early stuff packs had the hot tub in it, and that was like the key selling point of the pack. So now that they've basically released a hot tub as base game, you don't really need the patio garden stuff pack one anymore. So it renders that pack a little bit useless. And it's also just a very underwhelming 20th anniversary gift to give players who play the game. I'm going to put this one as a fail. I wouldn't say it's that bad, because it's just an anniversary gift, but I do think that they could have done a bit better. Next up, we've got cars. This is a very divisive one in the Sims community. So for those who don't know, cars have existed in, I don't know if they were in the Sims 1, but they were in the Sims 2 and the Sims 3, but they didn't bother putting them in the Sims 4. And a lot of these issues where they don't put things in the game is because they rushed it on release. They didn't release it as a full game. I don't know if they had pressure from shareholders or what, but they didn't release it properly. So that is why we don't have stuff like cars in it. I, for one, do think that the Sims 4 is a life simulator. Well, I know it's a life simulator. And cars are a pretty normal part of life. I mean, we got spaceships in the game, for Christ's sake. We got a couple bicycles. They could at least give us cars. I know The Sims 4 has a closed world system, therefore you couldn't have cars that drive around, but I don't really think that matters. What I think they should do is on every single lot in the game, put a space where a car could go, and then you have the option to put that car on the roadside, but maybe there's only just like 1 or 2 slots. Or additionally, you could just have the car sitting anywhere on your lot like we did in The Sims 2 and 3, because right now when the Sims in The Sims 4 go somewhere, they don't actually walk there, they just like disappear and then magically reappear in the lot that they're moving to. So I don't see why the same thing couldn't happen with cars, if the cars could literally just disappear and then you magically reappear in the new lot. I think it's fine. So many Simmers, even nowadays, are divided about cars. I am going to put it in controversial. Sims 4 isn't cancelled for not having cars in the game because it isn't really that much of a gameplay deal breaker, but I do think it is pretty severe that 8 years or 7 years, however long the game's been about, this far down the line, they haven't even considered it, and I do think it is a little bit bad. Next up, you can't see it in the picture, but it's My First Pet stuff. This one goes without saying, but for those who don't know, so The Sims 4 Cats and Dogs was a pretty limited and empty pets pack, probably the most limited and empty one that we had for The Sims 4. And then I think it was about a year later, or was it just 6 months or something, they came out with the My First Pet stuff pack that requires you to have bought the Cats and Dogs expansion pack before you can use all the features in this stuff pack. So basically it's DLC for DLC. In gaming history, I've never heard of having DLC for DLC, so it is pretty severe that they did that. In addition to that, the key selling feature of My First Pet stuff was the ability to have a hamster cage. Now this is something that originally came with the Pets expansion pack of The Sims 1, 2 and 3. You didn't need to buy a separate pack for it, so the fact that they separated it out in The Sims 4 for absolutely no reason goes to show that they were really rinsing it for the money that they could get it for, allegedly. Surprisingly though, there are so many people that love My First Pet stuff. I was actually shocked, and I think obviously The Sims 4 attracts many different kinds of players, but in general it attracts a bigger female audience than male audience. Now I'm not putting in stereotypes because I understand that everybody's different regardless of their gender, but in general girls like pet stuff more than boys, girls like cute things more than boys. You could say I'm stereotyping, fine, whatever, that's just my opinion. So what I'm saying is among the younger female audience, My First Pet stuff is a very popular pack. That is why I am going to put it in controversial, because it is a very divisive pack. Some people love it, other people hate it. It is like Marmite, there is no in between. If you're not British, you may have heard of Vegemite, same thing. But then the next pack we have, again, you can't see it properly in the picture, but it is the Star Wars pack, Journey to Batuu. So if you do not have this pack, or you don't keep up with the Sims 4 news in general, this pack was so controversial. When the trailer for the pack actually dropped, a lot of Simmers were actually really pleasantly surprised. Fair enough, this looks like a cool idea. So many people were like, oh, I don't like Star Wars, I've never watched it, but this could be a really good pack. It looks good, it looks really fun. And then when it got released, the opinions changed a lot. And then after people played it, the cracks started to show. And the reason why is because it basically takes the Sims away from the Sims. To explain that in more detail, one of the key aspects of the Sims is being able to build on lots, having lots that you can edit. In the Journey to Batuu world, it's all set dressing. You can't actually build anything in the world. It's a very useless pack for building. All of the stuff is Star Wars themed, so obviously there are a couple assets you could use outside of the worlds, but in general the assets for the Star Wars pack are so specific and sci-fi based, they don't really fit in any other neighborhood outside of the Star Wars Journey to Batuu world. The second thing is the gameplay. A lot of people complained that the gameplay was really dumb. You basically have to choose a different faction in the Star Wars universe that you align with and do missions for them, but the missions were very, very dull and dumb. I haven't played it myself, by the way, because I don't own it. I know a lot of other Simmers have done gameplay videos, so go ahead and watch those and you can see why it's hated so much. But the gameplay is just really lackluster and doesn't really make much sense. It's really mundane. It's one of those things where it's like, click here, complete an objective, then go here and click here. It's just kind of mind-numbing and dumb, like side quests in RPGs. It's not really that fun. And the third thing is, it's basically an advertisement for the Star Wars section of Disneyland. If you do like Star Wars and you haven't got the Journey to Batuu pack, honestly, do not get it if you're thinking about it. I personally don't like like it. If you want the Star Wars experience, get Lego Star Wars or something like that. But in terms of the Sims 4 one, keep away from it. And because of that, I am putting it in Sims 4 as cancelled, because when this was released, I think a lot of people were a bit done with the game. Next up, we got skin tones. So when the Sims 4 first released, it didn't come with that many skin tones. They then did update it with a couple more skin tones later on, but even so, it still wasn't really good enough. They didn't have that much in there. The biggest controversy was around darker skin tones though. Although skin tones were lacking in general, I think the darker ones were the worst. And the reason why is because the darker skin tones were actually showing graphical issues in the games, especially on consoles too. The graphical issues were so bad. It got brought up the most in 2020, but the fact that it took them 6-7 years to address it makes me say that this one is a very huge fail. I wouldn't say it's controversial because it wasn't like people were for and against it. It was just a very big fail on their behalf. The next one is ghosts. Now, this is another feature that was missing when the game was released. This is one of those things which makes it kind of kooky and fun. Well, it's not like an integral part of life simulation, but it is an integral part of The Sims, and the fact that they didn't have it in the base game when it was released was a bit of a fail. Even now, we don't have graveyards. In previous Sims games, we had graveyards that you can go to, but in The Sims 4 we don't, and I think the reason why is because ghosts weren't integrated with the base game. They didn't think of making graveyards as community locked, even though a lot of Simmers want them. I do think it is a massive fail on The Sims behalf, and I am going to put it in huge fail. I know a lot of other people will disagree with me, but I do think it's one of those things where people thought, oh, another thing missing from the game. No, sure, it's not a huge fail. I am going back on that. It's a fail, but it's not a huge fail. The next one is the world map. Now, oh, this is a cheeky one. So for those who didn't play The Sims 4 when it first released, the actual world maps that you see now, by the way, are totally different. So when the game first released, we only had Willow Creek, and we only had, guys, I always forget the name of the desert world. What's it? Oasis Springs. Springs Oasis, whatever. Anyway, that deserty world, we only have that one plus Willow Creek. We didn't have Newcrest, by the way. That didn't exist at the time. And obviously, one of the biggest criticisms of The Sims 4 worlds is that they're very small. People still criticize them for that even now. But the worst thing was the map, because you couldn't actually see the lots properly. It looked like a blueprint. It was just like bluish, and I'll put it on the screen so you can see. And the lots themselves had had like a white outline. They were so lazy. Honestly, I'm saying lazy. They were just they weren't lazy. They just didn't have enough time and resources. It was a bad management decision, not a decision by the creators of the game. Just a management decision. I'm guessing so anyway. They just didn't give themselves enough time. This one is going to go up there in Sims 4 as cancelled. And for me personally, The Sims 4 was literally cancelled. When I first bought it, I was so bored with the game. After a week, I was like, I am not going to play this anymore. And the next base game update thing that was very controversial is the Cupcake Machine. Oh, this is a big one. So going over what I've talked about before, there were a lot of missing things, whether it be toddlers, swimming pools, cars, ugly worlds with missing lots. In general, there were also many other little things that were missing, like, I don't know, dishwashers that we didn't have in the base game. One of the reasons why the Sims community got so mad about it is because they took time and effort to put in this really big and ugly cupcake machine, which the sole purpose of this thing was just to make cupcakes. It was so big, you could have just been able to make cupcakes with a regular oven, but in order to bake them, you had to get this big pretentious cupcake machine, which is so big it can't fit in any regular household. And a lot of Simmers were angry because, you know, the fact that they put in this huge thing, this cupcake machine that was really intricate and had a really cool design, people were like, well, if you had the time to put a cupcake machine, why didn't you have enough time to give us dishwashers or toddlers or ghosts? Because of that, I am going to put this one in controversial because it was a very big issue, and still to this day I think a lot of Sims are very resentful of the cupcake machine. I don't know anybody who's got enjoyable gameplay out of that thing. The next one is the shrines being not included in Snowy Escape. So for those who don't know about Snowy Escape, it's a Japanese theme pack. In the original trailer, they planned to put these shrines in where your Sims could go and pray in. A couple of people claimed it was offensive. I don't know the whole story because I don't like drama. I keep out of it, so I didn't read all the articles. The general gist is a couple of people claimed that it was offensive to Koreans because of some war that happened back in the day, World War whatever, maybe World War One or World War Two. Guys, I'm really stupid at history. I'm sorry, so I'm not educated on the topic. I don't know if it was actually Korean people getting offended or if it was just Gen Z getting offended by it. And then it caused a bit of a row in the community because people were like, guys, it's just a shrine that people pray at. Why? It's not offensive. I do agree. Like a shrine, I used to live in Japan, by the way, for 2.5 years. Japanese people pray in shrines, not as a way to disrespect Korean people. They pray for things like health. And I think it's one of those situations where like one person gets offended and then the whole internet blows up. You know what I mean? It always happens on the internet. One or two people say something stupid and then everybody acts like the whole internet has said something stupid when they haven't. It was just like one or two people, and it's one of those situations that was just blown out so much out of proportion. And I'm gonna say it was controversial because it was very divisive in the community. I for one literally cannot stand getting in arguments on the internet, whether it's about everything. Guys, these days everyone, when I say everyone I mean Gen Z, just getting so offended by everything. Guys, for those of you who are living in a Twitter, TikTok, social media bubble, nobody in the real world gets offended by everything. Guys, you can't live in this world if you're getting offended and cancelling everyone for everything. You can't do it. That's not how the world works. Everyone's got different opinions. And I think this like ridiculous toxic cancel culture that's just becoming so big recently is causing a lot of trouble in the world. And one of those things manifested in terms of this shrine in The Sims 4. If you want my opinion, by the way, I don't think they should have included it, not because I care about this drama that's gone on with it, but just because it's a religious item. One of the reasons why The Sims 4 is so diverse is that it doesn't include any religious references so that everybody can enjoy it no matter what they believe in. So I am actually glad that they removed this, even though it is a very peaceful religion. At the end of the day, I don't think they should include any religious stuff in the game, just to make it as diverse as possible. And the last thing is The Sims 4 in general. It's safe to say The Sims 4 is the most controversial Sims game ever released, and all of the issues that we've spoken about today really is just scratching the surface. This is just the tip of the iceberg of the issues that Sims players have. There are so many other things I could have talked about, and I think one of the biggest reasons why, guys, I'm sorry, I know I'm diverging, but I'm just gonna get my dressing gown. It's a bit cold. And oh, you caught me in my tracksuit bottoms. That's right, guys. When I record a YouTube video, I dress up my top half, and I do usually wear, you know, lounge. Sometimes I just wear my underwear. Anyway, sorry, I'm going off track again. Basically, The Sims... Sorry, I was so cold. It's getting, like, wintry now. Anyway, as I was saying, when The Sims 4 was released, there were some very poor management decisions made by EA and The Sims team, allegedly, in my opinion. So for those who don't know the history of it, because it's a bit of a long story, but I do ramble a bit, so I'll try and make it short as possible. But basically, for the Sims 4 release, EA released another Sims game called The Sim City, which is basically a city building game. It's not a part of the main Sims franchise. It's basically a different kind of simulation game made by EA. But when the game released, it actually released with a lot of controversial problems. And the reason why is because they originally released the game as online only. And when the game was first released, the online servers actually crashed and nobody play the game. It was really controversial, and as a result literally everybody stopped playing SimCity. And around the same time, I forgot if it was just before or just after, but another city building game called Cities Skylines was released. And even though at the time SimCity was literally the biggest city building game in the world, because it was so controversial, it literally plummeted and everybody went to Cities Skylines and started playing that instead. And now Cities Skylines is the biggest city building game out there, and I think that scared EA a lot. And at the time, by the way, you may or may not know this, but The Sims 4 was originally supposed to be an online only game, just like SimCity was. So they had to basically rebuild Sims 4 up. I don't know how coding works and all that stuff, so I'm not going to go into that, but they basically had to change the game around super duper quickly. As a result, it's safe to say the base game came out as obviously rushed. A lot of Simmers complained this game feels rushed. It feels like unpolished, like they've gone over so many different things without thinking about it and making it perfect. As a result, a lot of people complain about Sims 4 packs being buggy and glitchy, and that's honestly because The Sims 4 was released in a bit of a broken mess, and they've basically had to build up on top of this broken mess. I can't think of like a good acronym or like metaphor for it, but you know what I mean. When your platform is wonky, everything on top of that platform is wonky too. Do you know what I mean? And if they actually didn't rush rush the release of Sims 4 and made sure it was a really crisp, perfect game when they released it. I'm pretty sure most of the issues we have with the game now wouldn't exist, even the issues in the expansion pack. So because of that, I am putting The Sims 4 in The Sims 4 is cancelled, because it basically ruined the whole game, which is why I do really hope that when they release The Sims 5, if they release The Sims 5, that they really take their time, put a load of effort into it. Please, EA, if you're watching, I'm just a little small YouTuber guy, so EA isn't watching me, but if you are watching from EA, make sure that you do please take your time on The Sims 5. And this is also a great plug to say, because I am a small YouTuber, I would greatly appreciate it if you hit the like button down below and leave a comment giving your opinions about what I've talked about, because it does help my channel to grow a lot and I do genuinely appreciate it. Other than that, thank you so much for watching today, guys. See you next time.